Hey guys, this week's recipe is a really delicious recipe. It's actually seems quite simple, but it's a little bit hard to make, or it can be for some people. I think a lot of people prefer to eat this out at restaurants, so we call this croquette fromage, and basically it's these kind of beignets, I think that's the best way to describe them, which are dropped into oil with a cheese flavouring. Traditionally the flavouring is just quite simple, mild cheddar cheese, or we have like a Kraft cheddar cheese that we use, which is put in the middle, and it becomes really, really creamy and sort of melting when they get deep fried. I'm going to be using self-raising flour, so here I've got around 125 grams of self-raising flour. I've got 50 grams of parmesan. Like I said, you can use cheddar cheese if you'd prefer. I really like the taste of parmesan. It's got a really deep, rich flavour. I've got here 40 grams of salted butter. I've got a small amount of thyme, if you can see. It works out to be about 1/4 teaspoon. And then around 1/2 teaspoon of parsley. Here I've got some garlic powder, which I think works best for this recipe. I've got an egg and I've got some water. And I'm going to show you how I make our Croquette Fromage Mauricien. So my water is beginning to get hot. At this stage I'm just going to put my butter in to melt, and this is going to melt all the way through. Now the butter's all melted in, I'm going to take my flour and I'm going to put that straight into the mix. And what we need to do now is cook that out. So we're just going to mix that all around and let that cook out so it becomes really, really thick. When it gets to about this stage, we're just going to switch off the heat. And we're now going to turn in our parsley, that's going to go in. Our thyme. I've got some salt that's going to go in as well. Garlic powder and the cheese. And then now all we're going to do is take this off the heat and let it cool down slightly. So the best thing to do is turn it out onto a tray. And we're just going to spread this out a little bit so it cools down. That's before we add in the egg. So I just like to keep stirring that around and getting all those flavours moving. And we're just going to leave that to cool down just for a few minutes. So that's cooled down slightly, and now we're going to tip the egg in. And we're just going to move that around. The reason why I want it to cool down slightly is the moment you add the egg, it's going to start cooking. And we want that to incorporate really, rather than just to kind of turn into scrambled eggs. So all I've done is I've just wet my hands, and I'm just going to bring all this mixture together and just going to turn it into a nice ball. And I'm just going to leave that for a moment. What I'm now going to do is get my oil ready. So I'm just going to take a little pinch of the mixture, and we're just going to roll it into a ball. And that's going to go straight into the oil. And we're going to fry these off. And because of the self-raising flour and the egg, you'll see they grow a little bit in the oil and they'll sort of souffle up. And you just want to keep moving this around so they don't burn on one side. And we're just going to wait for them to go completely golden brown, and then we'll remove them from the heat. These little gajaks aren't necessarily served on the streets much anymore, but they are definitely in restaurants. The last time I went to a restaurant over in Flic-en-Flac, and they had these croquette fromage, and they served it with a gorgeous chili chutney, but it was like a pimakaze, which is basically like a really traditional sort of blended chili with garlic and salt, really, really hot, and it just works so, so well. So can you see they're beginning to brown off? It does take around 3 or 4 minutes. Once we get that lovely golden brown colour, we'll take them out and I'll show you what they look like on the inside. So these look really good. I'm just going to take them out now and let them drain off. And then I'm just going to fry off the other lot as well. So we're just going to leave them here to drain for a little bit, get all that oil out, but if you can hear, they're super crispy, and I'll break into one of them in a moment so you can see what they look like. So this is what they look like as a finished product, and they look delicious and they're super crispy. So I'm just going to go in, and if you can hear the crunch, and it's cheesy and it's like souffled out, absolutely delicious. And the best way to eat this is to dip it in some garlic water, and we've got some chili as well, and that's the best way to eat these guys. Super addictive. I hope you love the recipe. It's a really simple recipe. You can add different flavours as you wish and make it your own, really. You can put coriander in there. If you want to put some spices in there, you can as well. I'll open up another one so you can see again. There you go, guys. Hope you like this recipe, and tune in next week for some more Mauritian recipes from me. Bye!